Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Today's video is on the Five of Swords, and I feel like this has a theme of fairness, justice, questions about fairness and justice anyways. And I think it brings up in my mind the the juxtaposition of, or the balance or interaction of ideas of equality and equity in insofar as how people interact with each other, you know, in how they consider what is fair. And I think that this card makes me imagine a scene unfolding somewhere in the world where there are two people that are interacting, or maybe two groups, and one of them is insisting on equality and one of them is insisting on equity, and the kind of conflict that this could bring up. And I think there's certainly been, I don't know, there's certainly been a lot of, I think, talk of the the dangers of equity insofar as more contemporary equity movements are concerned. But I think that I think it's pretty common for people to actually be very equity centric without realizing it. I think I think that our idea of justice as this universal, abstract kind of constant that just exists out there and doesn't change. I think as much as we tend to believe that justice is this subjective thing, I don't think we really live that way. For one, each of us each of us knows who we are, infinitely more so than we can understand anyone else. There's this idea in many religions that to to know someone is to be able to forgive someone, and to know someone completely is to forgive someone completely, or variations on that theme, right? And so as far as that goes, we certainly know each other, or we certainly know ourselves very well, and often it can be easy for us to justify things because of the kind of experiences that we may have had that explain or excuse certain actions or behaviors. And it's always kind of funny when we engage in that kind of explanation of what is and what isn't just insofar as it applies to us, often without realizing how much of our own personal and unique experiences we take into account, and then comparing that to how little we do that, how little of those kinds of personal circumstances we include when we include in the process of judging others. Often when it comes to others, well, we have these laws, we have this system of laws, right? And this person broke the rules. But as soon as it comes to ourselves, it's like, well, yeah, the rules are out there, but considering what I've been through, or considering the investment that I've made, or I should get some, not blindly special privilege, but my circumstances should be taken into account when considering the law. I think that's often the way we the way we kind of shift, between that equality of justice system. Whoa, boobs! Yeah, this is the Casanova deck. Don't tell YouTube. Um, the yeah, that kind of shifting between the that abstract objective equality of the law, all equal under the law, everyone treated exactly the same way no matter what. And then that equity of, well, it's, you know, justice has to feel just. If it doesn't feel just, then things need to be adjusted. And if that means that, you know, if that means that I feel like I need to get a little bit extra before it feels like things are fair, then I need to get a little bit extra than everyone else. And then, that's on the equity side. And I think that justice is largely concerned with equity anyways. I think that often when people invoke this idea that there is this universal objective justice, I think, and most of us aren't experts in the law, or experts in the history of law. So I think it's pretty easy to overlook just how much concern the law has for equity, for making sure that there is as much of a consensus as possible amongst the people that justice is being done. Right. One of the paradoxes of, I think, the law everywhere is, like, who polices the police? Who watches the watchmen? Who guards the guards? That kind of thing. Who judges the judges? Like, the the members of the law, the representatives of the law, are generally granted special powers. But it puts them in a pretty unique position. We I don't know, like when you need when you need a cop to come and save you from someone who is breaking the law, from someone who is using force against you, in a system where we're all supposed to be in agreement about not using force against each other, right? That cop is going to, you know, is going to solve the situation. He's going to fix your problem by using force. And if that one cop's not enough, then a bunch of other cops are going to show up. And ultimately, the idea is that the police, the military, that part of the government that works towards justice essentially has a monopoly on force, and it is allowed to use the same kind of force that it tries to regulate, being used by individuals. And yet that inequality is what we consider to be fair and universal, right? The kind of things that we generally accept, that are done to criminals, as the kind of punishments that we accept as being perfectly okay. It's like, okay, well, this guy's not going to play nice. We lock them up. In some places, they cut people's hands off, or sentence them to death. It's those carrying out of sentences, are generally the byproducts of consensus in those areas, and they're considered to be fair. But obviously, we don't think that same way of treating people should be something that would just be, at the prudence of any individual. It's like, okay, some people get to do that, some people don't. Insofar as all of this relates to individuals, and how I think you and I might see these kinds of situations unfolding, in our actual lives, realistically, as opposed to abstractly. Um, I think when interacting with other people, it's useful to first and foremost be able to identify whether in any particular situation, whether they are invoking that objective equality idea of justice, or that more subjective and personal equity idea of justice, because it's never both at the same time. And as much as people kind of flip flop between one or the other, generally at any one point in time, they'll be, on one side or the other. So I think that first of all, it's a handy skill to first be able to ask ourselves, like, okay, what side is this person on right now of the idea of justice, fairness, and generally a lot of arguments between individuals of what is fair and what isn't fair will be, will consist of you taking, let's say, the position of equity, and then your opponent taking the position of, or it'll be equality and equity, or vice versa. So first of all, recognizing what position the other person is occupying, what position you're occupying in their mind, and then I think that arguments in our own defense are much more likely to, land and be heard and be genuinely acknowledged if they tend to start off with the acknowledgement of the other person's perspective. So just being able to say, like, look, I totally understand that there's there's a system of laws that we live under, and I acknowledge and respect the use and value of that, in the context of whatever situation you're talking about. But it's like, but nonetheless, in this situation, and then equity argument. Or you go, I totally understand that equity is a very real thing, and it's absolutely real part in the perception of fairness and justice. But nonetheless, if we ignore, some sort of more objective system of applying ideas and rules to people, whatever, so on and so forth. But yeah, I really kind of see this card as the interplay between those kind of individual positions and the collective positions, the equity positions and the equality positions, the the personal and the public, I guess. And yeah, I don't know. I think it just kind of helps to consider that throughout history, the way that the law has been growing and evolving and changing, I think it involves a lot of attempts to just help people out and keep people included and accommodate people. I think that often engaging in an argument about fairness could feel like someone is trying to push you out of what is fair to you. But I think often it's good to resist going so far as to walk away from that with the kind of experience of the whole idea of law and justice is just a bankrupt idea. I think historically there have been just a ceaseless series of attempts to accommodate the ever-changing public idea of equity. And the process is never instant, because it involves so many people and it involves large institutions that, they're like big tanker ships. They take a long time. You Once you start turning them, they still take a long time to change course. Um, but nonetheless, I think it's important, or certainly helpful to remember that accommodation, I think, is certainly present, and looking for it, seeing it, can definitely keep things from, I don't know, just looking hopeless, or being a reason for apathy or nihilism. Some stuff to think about. I'm going to wrap things up here. Thanks for watching. Drop me a like if you enjoyed the video. Feel free to comment. Free reading to be entered into the weekly draw for a free one-on-one reading. Yeah, thanks again for watching. I'll be back with another video tomorrow. Take care.